I've always prided myself on being composed. The kind of woman who never raises her voice, who wears just the right smile at the right time. Mark used to say I had a presence, graceful, poised. But somewhere along the way I think I forgot what that meant. When did composure turn into simply existing? Mark and I have been married for 17 years. He's a good man, I suppose. Reliable, steady. The type who wakes up at 6 every morning, makes his coffee black, and reads the paper without a word. He has a knack for numbers and a stubborn streak that shows up when the remote control goes missing. Predictable. Solid. And yet, somewhere between the routine kisses on the cheek and the polite conversations about grocery lists, something slipped away. I can't remember the last time he looked at me the way he used to, like I was his whole world. Now I'm just part of the furniture. Functional. Expected. Our daughter Emma is 16. That particular brand of teenage disdain lingers in her every word. I don't blame her. I was the same at her age. But the walls she's built are harder to break through than I anticipated. I wonder sometimes if she even likes me. And then there's me. 40, but I tell people I feel younger. I keep my hair highlighted, my skin smooth, my body fit. The gym has become my refuge. A place where I can sweat away the restlessness that gnaws at me. It's where I tell myself I'm doing something for me. That's where I first saw him. He was new. Young. The kind of beautiful that made women pause mid-conversation. His muscles moved effortlessly beneath his shirt, and his jawline was sharp, defined. There was no need for him to seek attention. It followed him naturally. I noticed how the younger girls giggled near him, the lingering glances he didn't bother to return. But he never looked my way. Not once. I hated how much that bothered me. I was used to turning heads, to lingering eyes. Even as the years passed, I maintained myself. And yet, Nathan barely acknowledged my presence. Not a glance, not a nod. Nothing. I started to crave it. The next few days I lingered near him, adjusting my ponytail, stretching a little longer, arching my back just so. I wore my tightest leggings, the kind that hugged my curves perfectly, and still nothing. I caught glimpses of his reflection in the mirrored walls. He was focused, disciplined, but I wanted him to see me, really see me. It wasn't until I fumbled my opportunity on purpose that he finally did. The bench in the corner was heavy. Not impossible, but I played the part. Struggling just enough, making sure the curve of my hips was on display. "Excuse me," I called, turning toward him slightly breathless. "Would you mind helping me move this?" He looked up. Dark eyes, a little surprised then polite. "Of course," he said, his voice low and smooth. He moved toward me, gripping the bench with ease. I tried not to notice how his arms flexed, the strength beneath his skin. "Thanks," I offered, flashing what I hoped was a charming smile. "No problem," he replied, a faint grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You come here often." It wasn't a question. He'd noticed. Maybe not in the way I'd wanted, but he had. "Most days," I answered a little too quickly. "Keeps me sane." "I get that." He nodded, his grin lingering. "I'm Nathan." "Julia," I replied, feeling the spark I had been chasing finally catch. It was nothing. Just a small, simple exchange. But as I walked away, I felt his gaze on me. And I wanted more. I couldn't stop thinking about him. It was foolish, I knew that. A grown woman obsessing over a boy half her age. But it was more than the way he looked. It was how, in those brief moments, he made me feel visible, vibrant, desired. I went back to the gym the next day, hoping to see him again. My heart raced when I spotted him, his dark hair damp with sweat, the muscles of his back moving fluidly as he lifted weights. I took my time stretching, pretending not to watch him, but every now and then our eyes would meet. "You're working hard today," he said, his grin teasing as he passed by. "Trying to keep up," I replied, smiling despite the rush of nerves that twisted inside me. The small exchanges grew. First a nod, then a wave. Soon he lingered a little longer, and I caught myself doing the same. I'd adjust my ponytail, check my reflection, wonder if he was looking. One evening, as I finished my workout, I saw him by the water fountain. He straightened up as I approached. "Heading out?" he asked. "Yeah." "Can I walk you to your car?" I hesitated, but the warmth in his eyes was disarming. "Sure." We walked together, the cool air wrapping around us. Our footsteps echoed in the parking garage, and I felt that undeniable pull between us. "You always this disciplined?" I asked, breaking the silence. He laughed softly. "Trying to be. My dad always says hard work pays off." Smart advice. Yeah, he's a tough guy. Not easy to impress. "Well, I'm impressed," I said before I could stop myself. Nathan paused, his eyes locking onto mine. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I might start believing them." He smiled, and in that moment I knew. I knew this wasn't harmless. This wasn't innocent. And I didn't care. I could still feel the lingering warmth of Nathan's smile, like an ember under my skin. Every glance, every casual word between us, it all left me craving more. The worst part? I didn't even try to fight it. But at home, the air felt heavier. Mark barely noticed the way I dressed now, how my skin glowed from the gym sessions. He didn't ask why I came home late, or why I seemed distracted. Maybe he preferred not to know. "You forgot to get the dry cleaning," he said one evening, his eyes fixed on the TV. Some sports commentary droned on, the glow of the screen illuminating the indifference in his face. "So?" I shot back, a spark of irritation igniting. "You have two hands, don't you?" He blinked, clearly surprised. Mark wasn't used to my sharpness. I wasn't used to it either. But the words rolled out too easily. "I've been working all day, Julia," I thought. "Oh right, because I just sit around doing nothing." My voice dripped with sarcasm. "Maybe if you lifted your head from that damn TV, you'd see that." He stared at me, speechless. That flash of satisfaction I felt? I hated how good it was. The truth was, Mark made it easy to resent him. Every evening was the same. A plate of food I cooked, barely acknowledged. Conversations that looped like a broken record. Emma's complaints, Mark's empty nods, and my forced smiles. But lately I couldn't be bothered to fake it. "Whatever," Mark muttered, returning his attention to the screen. "Yeah, whatever." The following morning, I slipped into my black leggings and a fitted top, knowing exactly how good I looked. Mark didn't even glance up from his coffee. Not a word. But at the gym, Nathan saw me. "Morning," he greeted, his eyes lingering just a second too long. "Pushing yourself again?" "Always," I replied, a smile curving my lips. "Though I might need a spot later." "Anytime." The gym became my stage. Every step deliberate, every glance calculated. I stretched, knowing exactly how my body looked in the mirror. I felt alive under his gaze. And when I caught other women watching him, that rush of possessiveness thrilled me. But it wasn't just the gym. The change followed me home. I dressed differently. Tighter jeans, lower necklines. I left traces of perfume in the car, knowing it lingered longer than I did. Mark didn't comment. Maybe he noticed, maybe he didn't. I wasn't sure which option was worse. "You're awfully chipper lately," Mark remarked one night, his eyes narrowing slightly. "New project at work?" "Something like that." I didn't elaborate. Let him wonder. There was a cruel pleasure in knowing I could push him, twist the knife without saying a word. The way he shifted uncomfortably when I took my phone to the other room. The subtle tension when I laughed just a little too hard at a text message. "You know," I said one evening, as I swirled the wine in my glass, "maybe you should go to the gym too. Get out of this slump." "A slump?" Mark frowned. "I'm just saying. It might do you some good." It was petty. I knew that. But the power I felt in those moments was intoxicating. While Mark stewed in his own confusion, I drifted further. Nathan wasn't just a fantasy now. He was the spark that lit the fuse. And I had no intention of putting it out. It happened almost too easily. A few words exchanged in the parking lot after a workout. A lingering glance that hinted at something more. The tension between us was palpable. And when Nathan suggested grabbing a coffee, I didn't hesitate. We sat by the window of a small cafe, the sun casting a warm glow across his face. His smile was relaxed, confident, and I couldn't ignore how much I liked it. "So," he said, stirring his espresso, "you're at the gym nearly every day. Pretty dedicated." "It keeps me sane," I replied. "And I guess I don't mind the view." He grinned, catching the teasing note in my voice. I could say the same. The ease between us was unsettling. It felt like a dance, the steps familiar, yet exhilarating. But as the conversation flowed, something shifted. How old are you? Nathan asked suddenly, his curiosity evident. I hesitated, sipping my coffee. 40. He blinked, clearly surprised. No way. I would have guessed 30, maybe 32. I laughed. But his reaction ignited something deeper. I liked his disbelief. I liked that he thought I was younger. Desired. And you? I asked, though I already knew. 22. His grin returned. Does that scare you? Not at all. He leaned back, studying me. I've always been curious about older women. There's just something about them. The words hung between us, thickening the air. My pulse quickened. And now you've met one, I murmured, my voice low. Maybe I have. His eyes never wavered from mine. I should have ended it there. I should have laughed it off, made a polite excuse. But I didn't. I leaned forward, my fingers brushing against his hand as I reached for my cup. It was deliberate. He noticed. And in that charged silence I knew that whatever happened next, I wanted it. It didn't happen immediately. We danced around it, pretending the tension didn't exist. But it did. It followed us like a shadow, curling around every glance, every casual brush of his hand against mine. Nathan was clever. He knew how to build anticipation. After our coffee date, I felt it every time I saw him. The way he'd smile just a little longer, how his eyes would linger when I passed. And I fed off it. I started timing my workouts to match his, catching the gleam of sweat on his skin, the way his muscles flexed under the strain of weights. You pushing yourself today? He asked one afternoon, leaning against the mirrored wall as I finished my squats. Always, I teased, the deliberate sway of my hips impossible to miss. Good. I liked that. There was no mistaking what he meant. And yet, neither of us acknowledged it. Not yet. But I couldn't pretend forever. Want to grab a drink after this? Nathan's voice was low, the words sliding through the air like silk. I hesitated. The same part of me screamed to say no, to end it before it went too far. But the way he looked at me like I was the only woman in the world, I couldn't resist. Sure, I murmured. Why not? The bar was dimly lit, the hum of conversation mingling with soft music. We found a corner booth, secluded enough that the rest of the world blurred away. So what's your excuse? Nathan asked, his lips curling into that maddening grin. Excuse? For being so magnetic. I laughed, the warmth of the wine already loosening my restraint. That's a dangerous compliment. It's not a compliment if it's true. The words settled between us, thick and undeniable. His fingers traced the rim of his glass, his gaze never leaving mine. I should have been nervous. I should have felt guilt sinking its claws into my chest. But I didn't. You surprise me, you know, he continued, his voice lower now. You have this energy, this confidence. I thought you were my age when I first saw you. Well, you were wrong. I was. But I like being wrong. He leaned closer, his hand brushing lightly against my knee. The heat of his touch seared through the thin fabric of my leggings, and I didn't move away. I couldn't. You said you were curious, I whispered, the wine making me bold. About older women. I did. And now I'm more curious than ever. The air thickened. I saw the flicker of restraint in his eyes, the tension in the set of his jaw. He wanted this. He wanted me. We shouldn't, I said, though the words held no conviction. But we will. It wasn't a question. And when he kissed me, I let him. We barely made it through my front door. His hands were on me the moment it closed, pulling me against him, devouring my mouth with his. I kissed him back just as fiercely, years of neglect and resentment dissolving into raw desire. Clothes fell away piece by piece, like we couldn't stand the barrier between us. His lips traced along my neck, my shoulders, each touch igniting something wild within me. I led him to the bedroom without a word, the heat between us unbearable. He didn't hesitate. His body moved over mine, his hands exploring every inch. I arched beneath him, relishing the way he made me feel. Alive, wanted, powerful. I clawed at his back, pulling him closer, drowning in the ecstasy of the moment. There were no second thoughts. No regrets. Just the delicious ache of surrender. Julia, he murmured, his breath hot against my skin. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I had crossed the line, and there was no turning back. I thought I'd feel guilty, Isn't that what happens? You do something you swore you'd never do, and the shame wraps around your chest like a vice. But the guilt never came. Instead, I felt free. Nathan and I fell into a rhythm. We didn't talk about it, we didn't need to. After the gym, there were drinks. After drinks, it was my place. My bed. My body. Every time I slipped beneath him, the weight of my marriage disappeared. He was intoxicating. Every touch, every stolen moment pulled me deeper into him. I stopped caring about what Mark noticed. I barely acknowledged him most days. I went through the motions at home, but my thoughts were always elsewhere. When he asked how my workouts went, I gave short, dismissive answers. He never pressed. But then something shifted. "You're different lately," Mark said one night, his eyes narrowing over the rim of his glass. "Different how?" "I don't know. Just distant." I shrugged, unfazed. "Maybe I'm just tired." "Maybe," he echoed, but the doubt lingered. A week later, Mark came home from work quieter than usual. He avoided eye contact, his jaw tight. I didn't ask why. I didn't care. But as I turned to leave the kitchen, his voice stopped me. "I had an interesting conversation today." I paused, forcing calm. "Oh, Carlesson. Nathan. You've met him, right?" My heart skipped. "Briefly. At the company barbecue." Mark nodded slowly, studying me. "Carl said something funny. Apparently, Nathan's been bragging. Says he's been seeing some older woman. 40, he thinks. Married. And..." I kept my voice steady, meeting his gaze without flinching. "And it made me wonder." He stepped closer. "You've been going to the gym a lot. Coming home late. Laughing at your phone. Are you accusing me of something, Mark?" I shot back, my tone laced with challenge. "I'm saying it's suspicious. You're paranoid." But even as the words left my mouth, I saw it. The seed of doubt had taken root. And once it's there, it grows. The next day, I felt his eyes on me. Mark was careful, subtle, but I noticed. His glances lingered, his questions sharpened. I brushed it off, pretending not to care. But when I left for the gym, a weight pressed down on me. And I wasn't wrong. After my workout, Nathan and I made our way to my car. He was laughing, his arm brushing against mine. The lingering touches, the way we didn't bother with caution, it had become second nature. "Come back with me," I whispered, already anticipating the feel of his skin against mine. "Always." But as we pulled away, I caught it. A dark sedan parked just far enough to seem inconspicuous. Mark's car. My stomach twisted, but I didn't stop. I didn't turn back. If he wanted the truth, he'd get it. Back at my house, Nathan's hands were already on me before the door shut. Clothes fell away, and I lost myself in him, the thrill drowning out everything else. Until I heard it. The unmistakable slam of the front door. Mark's voice echoed through the house, low and seething. "Julia." Nathan froze, the color draining from his face. But I didn't move. I didn't cover myself. I simply stared at my husband, watching as the full weight of betrayal shattered whatever remained between us. Mark's eyes burned with fury. The silence between us crackled, thick with the weight of what he had just seen. "Get out," he growled, his voice low but dangerously steady. Nathan scrambled to gather his clothes, his hands trembling. He avoided Mark's gaze, shame plastered across his face. But I didn't move. I didn't flinch. "Julia," Mark's voice cracked, the hurt breaking through the anger. "How could you?" "I think you already know," I replied coldly, the rush of defiance keeping my trembling at bay. Nathan bolted from the room without another word, his presence vanishing like smoke. The sound of the front door slamming shut echoed through the house. But Mark and I remained locked in place, the air between us suffocating. "How long?" he demanded, his fists clenched at his sides. "Does it matter?" His jaw tightened, the vein at his temple pulsing. "It matters to me. A few months. After the gym mostly. Sometimes here." I said it without remorse, watching the words slice through him. I wanted him to feel it. I wanted him to understand just how far we'd fallen. Was it worth it? Mark's voice wavered. Throwing everything away for a kid? He made me feel alive. I shot back. "Something you stopped doing a long time ago. Don't you dare put this on me." "Then who should I put it on, Mark? You? Me?" The empty space between us. I laughed bitterly. Maybe if you'd looked at me the way he did. Shut up. Mark's voice cracked, raw with pain. You think this justifies what you did? You think I deserve this? I think we both deserve the truth. And now you have it. We stood there, breathing heavily, the accusations lingering like smoke. Mark's face twisted with disgust, but beneath it was something else. Loss. Grief. You destroyed us, Julia. No, I whispered, my voice barely audible. We were already destroyed. You just refused to see it. The tears welled in his eyes, but he didn't let them fall. Without another word, he turned and walked away, the weight of my betrayal following him with every step. I didn't stop him. I didn't apologize, because I wasn't sorry. The house was quieter than I ever remembered. Days passed, then weeks. Mark stayed in the guest room, barely speaking. I didn't try to bridge the silence. There was no point. Emma knew something was wrong. She wasn't a child. The way Mark avoided my gaze, the absence of our usual family dinners, it was obvious. But she didn't ask. Maybe she was afraid of the answer. Nathan. He stopped texting. Stopped calling. Not that I was surprised. A 22-year-old boy wasn't going to stick around for the fallout of an affair. And honestly, I didn't miss him. What I missed was the way he made me feel. Powerful. Desired. Alive. But now that feeling was gone. One morning Mark finally broke the silence. He stood at the kitchen counter, his coffee untouched. I've filed the papers, he said flatly. I nodded.
No tears. No protests.
Just a quiet acknowledgement of the inevitable. I'll keep the house, he continued. You can find somewhere else.
Fine.
Emma will stay here. She needs stability. Of course. He scoffed, the bitterness dripping from his voice. That's all you have to say? What else is there? Mark shook his head, his knuckles white against the coffee mug. You don't even care, do you? I opened my mouth, but no words came. Did I care? Maybe once before everything unraveled. But now the numbness had swallowed everything whole. I loved you, Julia, he said, his voice breaking. Even when you pushed me away. Even when you gave up on us. I met his gaze. Then you loved a version of me that no longer exists. There was nothing left to say. He walked away and I let him. A month later I packed my things. Emma barely said goodbye. The resentment in her eyes spoke louder than any words could. I understood. One day maybe she would too. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town.
No sprawling kitchen.
No framed family photos. Just beige walls and the echo of my own thoughts. Nathan remained a distant memory. Occasionally I wondered if he ever spoke of me. If I was just a story he shared with his friends. A reckless fling with a married woman. But it didn't matter. He served his purpose. And I suppose I served mine. I thought I'd feel regret. But I didn't. Not in the way I expected. What I felt was emptiness. The thrill, the passion, it had all been a temporary high. And now the crash was unbearable. But maybe this was my punishment. And maybe in time I'd learn to live with it.